Welcome to part 2 of the DIY high-low maxi circle skirt tutorial. Alright, let's go ahead and sew everything up. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and lay out the front of your skirt with the right side facing up. Take 2 of your pockets and lay them right on top. Make sure that the right side is touching the right side. Next, you just want to go ahead and pin these pockets down in place. Alright, now go ahead and grab one of the center back pieces. Make sure the right side is facing up. And we're going to attach our pocket to this as well. So remember on the side, there was one side where we made a little clipping. We're going to work on the opposite side to attach the pocket. So grab one of your pockets and we're lining it up. Make sure that the right side of the pocket is touching the right side of the skirt. Next, you want to go ahead and pin this in place. And you're going to do the same exact thing to the other back piece. And we're going to take it to our machine and sew all 4 pockets. Alright, let's base this pocket into place. Lining up my fabric with the edge of the presser foot. Continue sewing down until you get to the end of the pocket. Now that all 4 of your pockets are attached, go ahead and open them up and press them out. When you sew a seam, you have to press a seam. Alright, working with the right side of the front piece, make sure the right side is facing up. Go ahead and grab one of your back pieces. And we're going to lay this right sides together. Once you have these nicely lined up, making sure this is good, go ahead and find where you made those notches in your pocket. So we had 1 notch in our pocket up top where we made a clipping. Go ahead and place a pin there. And we also made a clipping down at this portion of our pocket. You can look and find it. I spotted it here. Alright. Next, I'm just adding some additional pins around the pocket and down the length of the skirt. Next, we'll take this to our machine and sew it up. Starting at the base of our skirt, we're going to use a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So go ahead and sew and back stitch, and we're going to sew all the way up. Alright, now it's time to sew up our pocket. We're going to continue sewing up until we get to the bottom notch here. Alright, once you get to that pin, go ahead and lower your needle, lift up your presser foot, and go ahead and pivot your skirt. Then lower your presser foot back down, and we're going to keep sewing 5/8 of an inch. Now go ahead and as you are finishing up your pocket, go ahead and pivot your pocket. So apply pressure as you're turning to sew up the pocket. And then once you get to the top, go ahead and back stitch. Now we're at the top part of our skirt and we need to close it up. So this flap here, which is the seam allowance that we use to baste our skirt, I'm lining that up with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to sew down until I get to this pin. So sew, back stitch, and then just sew down until you get to the pin and back stitch again. Now that you've sewn the back and the front together, we're going to press this out. Make sure that the pocket is facing towards the front panel. And you're just going to press it all down. Alright, before we sew our waistband down, we're going to pin our pocket just so it won't be moving. I just pinned it at the top. That way when we get ready to attach our waistband, it'll stay nice to the top going towards the front of the skirt. Alright, working with the top of our skirt with the right side facing up, grab your waistband and we're going to pin this in place. So I'm going to start at the edge of my skirt and just go ahead and pin my waistband all the way around. Alright, using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, let's go ahead and attach our waistband to our skirt. And just make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once you're done, go ahead and press your seam going towards the waistband. And next what we're getting ready to do is we need to attach our zipper, but right here in the seam allowance I'm cutting off a 1/2 inch piece so that it'll cut down some of the bulk when I get ready to attach the zipper. So get close to your stitches, but do not cut the stitches. So here's a close-up view of how much I cut off. Alright, now we're getting ready to baste baste the center back together. So what you want to do is find where you made those notches in the waistband. And you're going to pin there. Then you also want to pin where this seam is. And then you want to find on the skirt that 9 inches down where we made 2 notches in the skirt piece. Go ahead and line up those and place a pin there. Alright, so now we're going to do a basting stitch. We're going to sew from the notches where we in the waistband all the way down to the notches here. Alright, when basting this in place, we do not need to backstitch. So just start sewing from your first pin, and we're going to sew all the way down until our last pin. And once again, when we get to the end, we are not going to backstitch. When you get to the end, go ahead and clip your threads and open this up and go ahead and press it out. Then take your invisible zipper. Alright, once you open it up, it'll look like this. Now when you get ready to press, you want to open it up and press it flat like this. Okay, so the whole way you'll need to roll that tape, push that tape back and press it flat. Okay, so you have to roll it back and open that up. Alright, now that you have your back seam allowance pressed open, we're going to work to do our zipper. We're going to work on one side of the seam allowance, so just the seam allowance by itself. Okay, so nothing is underneath it, it's just this one piece. Alright, so go ahead and grab your zipper, and right now it's facing the right way. We want to flip it over. Okay, so yeah, I flipped it over, so now I have the right side of the zipper tape is going to touch the right side of this. So I'm going to take my tape, and I'm going to pin my zipper tape to the seam allowance, and you'll see that on the zipper tape there's extra at the top. So right where at the zipper tape, right where this clear part is, that's where I like to line it up with the notch. That's where I like to line it up with the notch that we made. Just pinning that down in place. Make sure your zipper teeth are lined up with the seam line. And I'm pinning all the way until I get to that clipping at the bottom. Alright, now that you have that pinned in place, we can go ahead and take this to our machine and sew it down. Alright, we're going to change our presser foot, so I'm going to take this one off. And I'm going to switch over to my zipper foot. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and insert this. Make sure you're only, make sure you're only on this one piece, okay? Not sewing on anything else but this seam allowance. Alright, so as we are sewing, you want to make sure that you get as close, you want to get right inside of here. You don't want to sew on the teeth, okay? So, yeah, you don't want to sew on the teeth, but we're going to get right in here. As I'm sewing, I'm making sure that the teeth are lined up with the seam. And I'm just double checking, making sure that my fabric hasn't shifted and somehow I have an extra piece under here, because that has happened to me in the past. Alright, so you're going to keep sewing all the way down until you get to that 9-inch marking, and you will backstitch. Something like this. Stitches nice and in the teeth. Go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Alright, when sewing the other side, I like to start from the 9-inch marking on the skirt and make my way up to the waistband. I mean, if you like, you can always switch it over, but I like to do mine this way. Alright, now you can take your seam ripper and we're going to take out those basting stitches that we used to close up. Just the basting stitches only. So those were the long stitches. Alright, starting from the bottom of our zipper tab, we need to close up the rest of our skirt. So go ahead and line everything up and go ahead and pin all the way down. Alright, we are going to begin stitching right at the bottom where we finished sewing our zipper, and right at that 9-inch mark. Sorry, you can't use yellow stitches, but right here where we finished our stitches, we're going to start from that point and we're going to sew down. So pulling the zipper, I'm pulling the zipper out of the way. Go ahead and start sewing and backstitch, and as you are sewing down the rest of the skirt, be sure to use a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, so now we have this tab left of the zipper. What I like to do is, working in the seam allowance only, I like to just go ahead and tack it down with a few hand stitches. You can use your machine if you would like to do this. But I'm just going to take my needle and thread and just put a few stitches on both sides. Alright, so I'm looking at the right side of the skirt in the back. We're going to finish off this waistband. So what you want to do is you want to fold this over. And you know where your fold line is from where that notch is. So where that notch is, that's where the fold is going to be. Then you want to go ahead and pin this. Before we stitch that down, you actually want to turn this up, okay, just so that this is aligned with the waistband. So I'm going to pin that in place. And also, there was that little excess zipper piece. Okay, pull that out this way so that when you sew it down, it doesn't get all caught up. Alright, now we can run a stitch from here to here. Alright, so still having the zipper foot on, we're going to have this tab here is going to be resting up against the zipper foot. So I'm going to lower that on there. Alright, now that you have that sewed, go ahead and flip it to see if you like it. And that is to my liking. So I am up in this corner here. I'm going to clip it. That releases some of the bulk. And now you have a nice clean finish. Go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Alright, let's finish off this waistband. So what we want to do is take the waistband. You're going to fold it in 1/2 inch. And you're going to line it up with this 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you're going to press that down. Alright, lastly, to close this up, you can take some peel and stick tape or heat and bond. And I just take little, you can take little pieces at a time. Don't try to do the whole thing. So laid it right in the seam area. And you just peel it back and it has that sticky substance. I like to do mine all the way before I close it. So alright, the last step of our skirt and we are done. So working with the hem, I have the wrong side facing up. I went ahead and folded over the bottom 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm taking my iron and I'm pressing that in place. Then once you have done that all the way around, you want to open it up and then fold it in to that crease line, then fold it and then press that in place. So you're going to do this all the way around. So turn on some music and it's going to take a minute, but you good. You good. You okay. Now it's time to sew our hem in place. So working on the right side of the skirt, I have my fabric lined up with the edge of the presser foot and I am sewing all the way around. Once you get to the end, be sure to backstitch and go ahead and press this out so it's not all wrinkly and wavy. Alright everyone, this concludes the tutorial. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future tutorials. And also check out my blog and other social media outlets for more pictures and other DIY projects. Comment below if you have any questions. And if you so happen to sew, stitch, and slay this look, be sure to tag me on IG at Montoya Mayo so I can see how you rocking it. Alright, until next time.